It's awesome. WAGSY'S World. WAGSY'S World. Have some fun. WAGSY'S World. WAGSY'S World. Like and subscribe.
Hi everyone, I'm WAGSY, and welcome to WAGSY'S World. Today's subject, wow, it's a big one. What makes the Beatles great? It's been gone over hundreds of times in the last few decades about why the Beatles are great, what makes them great, all the backstories, all the front stories. I've got to be honest with you, I know the Beatles are great, but they're not a favorite of mine. I only have one CD in all my record collection. I have one CD that covers their top hits. However, stay till the end and I am going to list my top 5 Beatles songs, and also, and more importantly, I have a special guest that is a Beatles fanatic, and he will give you his opinion of why they're great. Oh, and by the way, he's on location in London. Yes, Liverpool and whatnot, that's where he's going to be giving you his opinion from. Okay, please like, subscribe, ring the bell. Okay, big breath, let's do it, guys. What makes the Beatles great? Oh, by the way, the reason I'm wearing the Hawaiian outfit is for the people of that state, because unfortunately the Beatles never performed, never did a concert in Hawaii. Now, actually a couple of them have had homes in Hawaii, so that's a consolation prize to the Hawaiians. Okay, here we go. John, Paul, George, Ringo. Do I really need to say their last names? Okay, I will. John Lennon, Paul McCartney, George Harrison, Ringo Starr. Formed in 1960 in Liverpool, England. Now in 1962, George Martin had molded them into a professional act. Their first hit was Love Me Do. And by 1964, they were the Fab Four, and Beatlemania was on full tilt. The Beatles ushered in the British invasion. They kicked down the door of the United States and said, "Here we are," and others followed. Now they would add electronic and psychedelic music to their music in the later 60s, mid to late 60s. They officially broke up in 1970. Now I kind of skimmed over that history. A lot of you know it. What I'm going to say is, let's talk about the staggering numbers and the success of their music. Okay, hold on. They're the best-selling artist in history. Estimated 600 million plus units. They have the most number 1 albums, 15. They have the most number 1 hits, 20 number 1s. They've won 7 Grammys. They've got an Oscar. And of course, they're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I'm sure they were first term ballot. I don't remember. Rolling Stone magazine calls them the greatest music artist of all time. They have 13 core studio albums and 6 live albums. Okay, you know what? I'm going to cut off the stats because they're ridiculous. And they did all this in 7 years. So let's sum up some things. As far as writing, innovation, melodic sense, mixing of different genres, they're at the top. They're at the top of anybody and everybody. And Lennon and McCartney are considered the greatest writers, songwriters in modern history. And George Martin, kind of the 5th Beatle, he put the icing on the studio cake. His studio production made the music just off the charts. And it's not an overstatement that almost any band during the 70s, 80s, and even 90s, and look behind me, I don't care if it's the Cars or Huey Lewis or U2 or April Wine, any of these guys, they're going to tell you they were influenced by the Beatles. And that they're in music because of McCartney and Lennon. So, What makes them great? 1,000 things. I think that's the crux of it, though. That's the center of what makes them great, is some of the attributes I named and how they're viewed amongst their peers. It's unbelievable. So instead of me telling you why I, Wagsy, think the Beatles are great, and remember, I know they're great, but I don't know if I think they are. I'm going to go to Eric to give a super fan's perspective. So Eric, over there in London, tell me why the Beatles are great to you.
Okay, Wagsy. So I'm here in front of Abbey Road Studios, and I'm going to tell you the 5 things of what makes the Beatles great. Number 5, George Martin. He was the producer for the Beatles. A lot of traffic, sorry. So George Martin, he was the producer for the Beatles. The boys called him their like school teacher. He was the one that kept them in line. If it wasn't for George Martin, then I don't know if any records would be made. So George Martin, number 5. For number 4, we're going to do a cop-out here. We're going to go with George Harrison / Ringo Starr. They say Ringo Starr wasn't the greatest drummer, but he was the best drummer for the Beatles. And if it wasn't for George Harrison's incendiary guitar, I don't know if they would have had the sound that they had. George Harrison always used to say that he played the in-between notes. So that was a perfect fit to make the band whole. Number 3, we are going to go with the rivalries. Not only the rivalry between John Lennon and Paul McCartney, but the rivalry between other bands like the Rolling Stones and the Beach Boys that made them great. It pushed them. Number 2, we're going to go with John and Paul. If it wasn't for these two, they wouldn't have the sound that they have now. They truly created pop music, and without their writing, without them pushing each other, competing, we wouldn't have the music that we have. And number 1 of what makes the Beatles great, that is their work ethic. From 1960 to 1962 in Hamburg, Germany, they played over 250 shows in just that time. From 1962 to 1964 in Cavern Club in Liverpool, they played 300 shows, and then they also played another 250 shows in other venues around the UK. And when they were starting out in Germany, mostly they would do 5 or 6 shows per night, so they were really working hard. And not only that, when they got into the studio, their work ethic was insane as well. I think on Get Back, they did 43 rehearsals of that one song in one day. See, I'm at the famous Cavern Club where the Beatles were made famous. It is quite the feeling down there. This is where they got, not their start, but this is where Liverpool fell in love with the Beatles. And it is an energy that I cannot describe. It is an amazing venue, great drinks, great people.
She asked me to stay and she told me all my life, though some have changed, some forever, not for better. Some are gone and some remain. All these places have their moments for people and things that went before. Some are dead and some are living.
Okay, Eric, that's awesome. I have to say you were very convincing, and I'm going to start listening to some more Beatles. But I am going to give you my top 5 Beatles songs, and I love these songs. I really do. Number 1 for me is Hey Jude. Number 2 is The Long and Winding Road. Number 3, Day Tripper. Number 4, While My Guitar Gently Weeps. I've seen so many guitarists perform that. Steve Lukather of Toto, and lots. And my 5th favorite song would be Here Comes the Sun. And I think George Benson did a great version of that, a great cover. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. The Beatles are great. And you have a great weekend, and we'll see you next time.
WAGSY'S World, it's awesome.